Welcome to the new episode of the Marketing Meeting. My guest today is Massimo Giunco. He worked 25 years at Nike at a variety of brand and marketing leadership roles. Ciao, Massimo. Welcome.
Ciao, Iter. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, if I'm doing a marketing podcast today, it's mainly because of you, because you are the first person. You can take full credit on that if you like my style. If you don't like it, you just don't take any credit.
No, it's a huge responsibility. Okay.
Yeah, because you are the first person. Massimo is the first person who hired me into my first marketing role.
Yeah, I remember that. And
yeah.
Probably I wasn't the best boss you ever had, but I'm proud that I opened your future to discover what marketing is and what marketing
Well, I mean,
can be.
if you are the best boss or not, I mean, that's another discussion for another podcast. Maybe I'll do it solo and then talk about all my marketing bosses at Nike. But since I'm still at marketing, so it means that I mean the start was really good. That's what I feel. So Massimo, since you worked 25 years at Nike, which does a lot of brand and marketing investments, it's not only about like performance marketing. About performance marketing was anyway most of the time second or third priority. Can we start by talking about how has marketing changed back in we can go back even 25 years, but we can also go back like even 5 years ago compared to now. Would that be a good start?
It's a good opportunity. You know, there are many stereotypes around marketing and the way marketing is developed. So when I joined Nike in 1997, the Nike.com was shut down. It wasn't used for 3-4 months because they were trying to review the strategy for internet. And now it's all digital, but at the same time, you know, I was reading recently the book from Paul Fedwick, The Anatomy of Humbug. And yes, at the end of the story, over the last 150 years, marketing is a discipline that is based on the same concept, that is creating memory and do that in the highest number possible of people, you know. And that's something that has remained unchanged despite the dramatic change of the media environment or the arrival of the internet thunderstorm. Then it's true. The creation, the narrative, the brand relationship, whatever, is the same. What has changed probably is the way we reach people. Mm-hmm. And that's it's a quite a dramatic change in the sense that now we have massive media fragmentation, social media, the web, performance marketing. And but the reality is also that many of these new media aren't as effective as we think in creating memories. So that's why many digital-driven campaigns are maybe good in the short term, but they're not able to build a brand, and so they are not good to create memories and make the brand silent at the moment of buying. And so that's something also needs to be kept in mind, because very often marketing is a trend more than a discipline. And we talk languages because it's a fashionable way to talk about that, but it's not effective as it should be. What is new, though, and this is something that I'm discovering as we speak over the last 3-4 months, I mean, I'm becoming a fan of brain science. You know, what is new is that over the last 20-30 years, we discovered more and more about the way the brain works. The brain we learn, the brain we create memory. And I started with Daniel Kahneman, System 1, System 2, and then I went through all the series of books that they were very difficult to understand, but at the end they are giving me a different perspective of the job that we do. And so then we discovered in marketing that the brain is wonderful mechanism, but also very imperfect. And because of this imperfection, marketing is working very well. Marketing has the power to manipulate, our decision because the brain is imperfect. So we are not rational. We are very rational, and we are very sensitive to the marketing activities because of that. Then the problem is to think about how we have been using marketing. We cannot deny that marketing has been the engine of the economic growth of the Western world,
Mm-hmm.
and not only of the Western world is the engine of the economy, and is also an agent of change of the attitude of people. And probably in this case, we haven't done a very good job in the sense that in order to, promote certain products, promote certain brands, we promote also, I can say, a human attitude that is not consistent to our well-being, or is not focused to make people live better, but is more focused to make people buy more.
Mm-hmm.
That means, I need to be rich, I need to be famous, I need to have a good image, I need to look cool, and I am afraid of missing something. I need to buy something because it's scarce, it's going to be rare, and I need to buy something that in my mind is an object of desire, but in reality it's just a piece of rubbish, but I need to buy it. And all these kind of things are definitely not making the life of people better. They're making the life of people a little bit more miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and and, and this is the power of marketing. Is the what marketing has done through millions and then billions and then trillions of dollars invested in marketing activities. And I'm not sure if we are using all those investments in the right way. And we can
Mm-hmm.
discuss about that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, hasn't marketing always be about the same, with the same objective of like 100 years ago and now today, to feel people that they are missing something, or like they can have like another world of living by buying that product, or some kind of sensation, some kind of emotions by buying that product. This has stayed the same, I guess, right? That objective.
Yeah, in some form, yes. There is only one tiny difference. In at the beginning of the 20th century, advertising was done on the few newspapers that were available and on some out of home, around the city. So very, very limited. You know. Now advertising is everywhere. So the space
Mm-hmm.
of the web is unlimited. It can grow as
Mm-hmm.
many servers that we have. And our life is surrounded by advertising. So the quantity of the messages are exponentially high.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that the human brain cannot sustain anymore.
Yeah.
Because it also all the messages are about buy this because it's cool. And you need to look like this. And if you don't look like this, you're a loser. I mean, then this quantity changes also the mentality, and the human brain doesn't is not made to cope with all of that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
again, one century ago, we didn't travel. You know, we travel much less. Our community was our village, and the five stores that we used to go, and our relatives and friends.
Mm-hmm.
today, I have 2,500 people on LinkedIn. 2,000 people on Facebook. I travel. I have friends everywhere. I read anything I can on the web. And my brain cannot sustain, can understand, is this right or false? So I need to trust at a certain moment. And I trust the brands because their messages are sometimes give me confidence or give me some sort of short-term pleasure. But there is a conflict of interest between me and the brands. They look for profit, and I don't look for their profit, And so the competition is unfair on this perspective. That's the huge difference. So marketing hasn't changed to create desire and to pursue the innate desire of the consumers. But the consumers are receiving too many input today, and too many inputs on one level of values that is not the right one, especially for in the light of the future.
There's one person, marketer, probably you know him, Byron Sharp. He has a book.
Is my master, is my lord.
Yeah. Although I question some of his thoughts, but
I believe him anyway because it's it's fine.
Yeah. But he has this concept. He gives an example from a supermarket, for example, because where you go to a supermarket, probably it's around like 1,000, maybe more than 1,000 SKUs, right? In a medium-sized supermarket, it's like 20,000, 30,000 SKUs of so many brands. Like even if you go to the toothpaste section, it's like you're faced with a choice of like 10 or 15 different brands. And then he says that like our minds need to limit that input, and that's why you just choose a product that's okay for you. That's not you cannot optimize all the store and make an optimum decision making throughout the shopping experience. Otherwise, you're going to lose, 8 hours of your shopping time to shopping, for like a toothpaste even. So that's why, he says like our minds are, going to the brands that they either trust or they have so much of mental availability that they see it everywhere. So we go and pick that brand that is quite familiar for you and that is okay for us. And we pick that. So is that concept can be, spread out to all the marketing now? Because we receive so many input from so many brands at every level. It's not only on the supermarket, it's everywhere. So how do we cope with that? What's the solution to this now for the brands? I'm asking a very general question, but like we are left with this as marketers. We are left with this problem right now of there's so many input to the consumer. So what shall we do now?
Oh, that's a $1 billion question, and
I'm raising it to you.
So it is true. The brands are a shortcut for a decision. The brands help me to filter all the questions around this product, the price, the ingredient, the company, and whatever, and then I can make a choice. The free market gives opportunity to everybody to become an entrepreneur and launch something and sell it. And the ability of a marketeer is the creation of a consistent narrative that is able to stand out, is able, and then there are 1 million theories around what's the best way to create this strategy. There is not a single answer, but what I know and what we know is that out of 1,000 brands that are there on the market, or out of 1,000 new brands that are going there on the market, 950 fails. That's the reality. Okay, so it's a natural selection of the of the brand species, and 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 the majority of the brand that fails, it's because they're not able to create this relationship with the consumer, and they don't give also enough time to create this relationship with the consumer. When I left Nike, I started to work on my own stuff and help companies here and there. And they always come with the expectation that I can have a brand in 6 months. And then I laugh, because, Nike, Apple, Disney, all the big brands that we see there, Coca-Cola, Coke, that we see there, they build the brand doing the same thing for 50 years. The same exact thing for 50 years. Okay? They didn't they didn't have a magic idea that transformed nothing into a big star. No. They had discipline, they have a formula that was repeated year by year based on, okay, I make a brand cool with the narrative that makes sense. I invest money, a percentage of the revenue that I generate every year in this model. And every year, I grow this percentage based on the revenue that I'm able to generate more than the previous year. And they did it for 50 years. That's why I'm saying there is no magic formula, but there should be a perfect balance of the ingredient of creative professionals around the brand narrative, of marketeers around the media strategy, in combination with product development, and in combination with a great distribution. Then you can have performance marketing, NFT, chat GPT, whatever you want, but doesn't change anything. There are too many BS around the world of marketing that are able to create illusion on the fact that if I have a good idea, if I'm creative, how many brands we saw in our life that were great and then they disappeared because at a certain moment they stopped investing and they reduced their visibility and they reduced the way they refresh the memory of the consumer with significant activities. Why the key success of Nike, for instance, is that they built a brand that is ubiquitous. In 50 is everywhere. You cannot get rid of it. I'm sorry, just everywhere. And that's something that they earned over time through the massive investment that they made, the discipline, the creativity, the product expansion, whatever, but also the consistency of what they've done.
And I can hear some people already thinking that, okay, we compare small brands with Nike, but let's not forget that Nike was also like a very grassroots brand. And and they just entered the market at a very small percentage of the market, and they created something new. So from there, I would like to ask you another question, because the first role that you hired me was a running brand manager role, which at that time at Turkey in Istanbul, there was literally no one running on the streets.
Yes.
And I remember that when we were running along the shore, where at the moment that's like 10 years ago, and now that track is like a runner's track. Fast forward to today, I remember that people were clapping at us while we were running. It was like looking really weird, and then people were like turning to us and looking why we are running and so on. So, and it took us like so many years, like at least 3 to 5 years, to see that it's coming up. And we have invested in the city in key activities, grassroots, without the exception of, without the waiting of any commercial return, right? We were not like checking the return on investment or the marketing budget spent every month. It was like a really sustainable, consistent strategy of building a culture in a city that doesn't run, which is like a small example on many other examples that we can give. But we know that marketing can change good things in a society, can implement good things in the world, or also it can create bad things in the world too. So my big another $1 question to you is that, is there any chance that marketing can save the world?
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. So, what you told me about Turkey, and it's the same thing that we did in Russia. We just gave an opportunity to a generation or couple of generation of young people, 15, 25, to discover sport. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that for many, many reasons wasn't the top priority for the culture of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And they like professional sport, but they didn't play sport. So we were able to do that. And that's again is a demonstration of the power of the brand to change behavior of people. Okay. Then, based on what I told before, it is true that marketing very often do good things, you know, but it's also true that in general, you know, marketing has been extremely focused on selling stuff, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and convincing people to buy stuff, creating dreams, creating fake or real dreams and whatever. And this is generated a society that is, again, extremely consumerist. Okay. And, we buy more and we buy more frequently because this is what the company wants.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sound communist on this perspective because but we need to be honest also to ourselves. It's the messages that the majority of the brands in the majority of the industries that we send to the consumer are always based on, if you buy this, you are cool. You need to buy this. And also, they are based on this flirting with rich and cool people, because only if you have my products, you're part of this community of rich and cool people. So those are all material values,
Mm-hmm.
that are becoming predominant in the Western world. It's visible. I mean, I'm not a sociologist, but I read something. It's so visible that all this kind of role models that we have, is definitely shaping also the way the society thinks, act, and behave.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem of this mentality, though, is that if you base everything on owning and buying something, okay, I have my iPhone, all right, but in 8 months, my iPhone is old. I need to buy the new one. And then there is the new, I mean, the iWatch and the new Mac. So only Apple is a generator of this kind of permanent frustration because I need to have the new one,
Mm-hmm.
while my iPhone can work easily for 5 years or 10 years. But no, I need to buy a new one. If I have a Rolex or a car, I need to change it. It's getting old, doesn't work. And I want a better car. And if I buy this car, the peer pressure this is all made by marketing.
Mm-hmm.
We create this bullshit castle of fantasies and desires that are artificial.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this artificial desire, they give very limited pleasure to people. And after a few months or maybe after a year, there is already the frustration because I want to have that. Or if I have that, I want to have more. I
Mm-hmm.
want Rolex, two Rolex, three Rolex. And collection of Rolex and whatever. And if I have a collection of Rolex, then I showcase on Instagram, and people looks at that, wow, that's cool, you are rich, and I want to have the same, but I cannot buy it, so I'm frustrated in the price. And it's a vicious circle. Now, let's not forget also that if the planet is fucked up, sorry for the F word, you can cut if you want, it's because there is a part of the planet that is consuming too much and using too many resources of the planet to sustain a quality of life that is unsustainable. And 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 we are very close to a breaking point that is not sure we can continue like this, and we receive signals from everybody. I mean, from the environment, the climate change, and as a consequence of that, from the pollution, and then as a consequence of that, from immigration, and then from the conflicts across the planet due to military powers and whatever. So the complexity of this is generating also additional pressure and negativity around the people. And so this is all a situation that cannot be sustained and needs to be changed, Now, and the question is, what are the powers that can help people to change behavior? What is this power that is able to spend $2 trillion every year just to buy new toothpaste or cookies or whatever? I see one, and that's marketing, and there is a huge potential for marketing to save the world. I don't want to talk, but I can talk for 2 hours about this because it's also becoming my passion. But there are 3 things the marketing can do. One is to change the narrative. If we need to help people to change, we need to change the narrative. We need to bring completely different role models. Now, I like to divide the words in poets and bankers. The bankers are testosterone, money, profit, greedy, and status, and elite, jet set, VIPs. And the poets are harmony and happiness and self-realization. I help myself to help you, you help me. And we made a narrative only for the bankers, or mainly for the bankers. Can we make a narrative also for the poets, using the poets also as a role model? And that's one thing that we can change. Second thing that we can change is once we have this narrative, why don't we let marketing do the job? That is, okay, now we have something good, a good reason to manipulate people's decision instead of bad reason. And that's ready. And also, we have a lot of creativity, Marketing is creativity by definition, Inspire people. Okay. Creativity in there are millions of positive stories out there that we can leverage. In Nike, we use stories of athletes to inspire billions of people to play sport, or at least we used to do it. Okay. We can use also millions of artists, millions of everyday people that can do that to inspire other people to feel better and do better. And also we can use creativity to create ideas that help us to change our attitude towards the planet, and information around pollution, rewards if you consume less energy, and all the content that we make to buy more, we can make content also to consume less. Those are just stupid ideas. I don't think so. It's the same concept that Richard Thaler were using in nudges. We use nudges to help people to choose the right pension plan. We use nudges to help people to use the car in a more environmental friendly way. Okay, let's create those nudges to help people to make the right choice in the world of, in order to save the planet. And then there is the third thing that needs to be done. It's the third change the marketing needs to make, and becomes individual. So the change that we can make, think about greenwashing. On one side, greenwashing is not bad because it's raising the profile of the environmental issues in the eyes of the mass market. So that's not bad, But it is bad though when you are a not sustainable company and you use greenwashing to sell more. That means that the problem that you make, the problem you try to talk about is getting worse because you sell more. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say, because at the end of the day, the company's objective is to sell more, right? Or to, I mean, not in terms of quantity maybe, but in terms of profits. You need more revenues and profits, which contradicts.
It's one of the things, again, I talk about Nike, but in this case, it's not so positive. But I think you were still there when we were talking about Move to Zero. When Move to Zero was, I've been part of also the corporate communication team for several years. So I've always been, very careful around balancing the corporate stuff into the reality of the world, And on the Move to Zero, I found myself very, in a challenging intellectual situation because Nike is a company that sells 1 billion pair of shoes every year, and probably another 1 billion pieces of apparel. Okay, so 2 billions products on the market every year, growing. Okay, the material that we use is far from being environmental friendly. Okay, in the majority of the cases, apart some niche or whatever, the way we produce, is far from being carbon neutral. Let's put it in a very okay. The way we distribute is insane. Okay, because we ship from China to Europe, from Europe to Canada, from Canada to South America. I mean, we make the product travel like crazy all over the place. Okay, and then we have 4 seasons of product, because you need to launch, and then we have, every football team has 4 kids. It used to be 2, now there are 4. Every basketball team, 4 kids. Every American football team, 4 kids. So it's all down to, then you go out and say, okay, we move to zero. When? Are you moving to zero when? In 2025 or in 2065? It's a huge difference, Because, but they go out and then they launch the 100% recycled shoes, And although they are fully aware that they don't have a cycle of the product, okay? It's a line. You produce, you sell. Game over. They say something about, you need to use it more, okay? But at the same time, you keep selling 1 billion pair of shoes every year, So, but the point is, Move to Zero becomes, at this point, greenwashing, a marketing tool to elevate the profile of the company in the eyes of the consumer as a good company that's thinking of the future. So I increase my familiarity with the brand and I sell more. So it
Yeah.
means that I make more damages to the planet. And no one in the company said, or maybe we can think about it a little second, you know? Okay? It's now we see many companies, in every industry, fashion, automotive, even in financial services, talking about the environment, and and I can so no one. I mean, do you have people in your marketing team and I can say, well, you know what? Yes, it's all good, but let's not use this as a marketing subject because okay, maybe let's have a conversation or the advertising agencies, they receive a brief and they immediately go and jump to develop the best creative idea to manipulate people, but not to change the substance of the problem. So this is why, in the individual level, we need to start thinking, what can we do to change this? Because we cannot continue to say yes. Maybe there is a day where we can say politely, but firmly, no, that's not a good idea. Okay. Until the moment when the pressure of the crisis will force the company to change. And then in this moment, the marketing will become a catalyst of the change because together with the consumer, will help the company to become better. It's a complex situation, but if we continue to play this game around, saying having some form of good thinking around the environment or around, civil rights or whatever, just to wash our face, and because of that we sell more and we don't stop this negative chain. We continue to use the old manipulation system that has brought us into this. Okay, marketing is one of the main reason of the disaster we are facing as a planet. But it can also be the opposite force. It's up to us.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, like, I think the dilemma comes from, okay, marketing has a message and they need to take the message out, which will eventually turn into a profit at the end of the day. So the expectation from a marketing team is actually to increase it, to create demand, to sell more, to make more profit. I think there starts the problem, which already increased over the years with all the calculation methods, performance marketing methods, and so on. The expectation, because I remember that when we were like trying to build the running culture in Turkey or in any other countries, we were not obsessed with the results for so long, for many years. For 3-4 years, I remember that no one was asking me about, okay, how many shoes have you sold? I mean, that was a question for the sales team, but not for the marketing team. So they just let us do whatever we can for the good of the society in a long term, which is not the case now. I mean, like, I know that you came with already like a example from Nike, though. I'm coming with another example from Nike. But I mean, so what's changing the narrative of the brand, then does that mean that the marketer's role and expectations from a marketer should change then?
Yes, means that we need to be accountable and responsible for the things that we do, like everybody in the planet should do if we want to change the trajectory of the future. That's what it means, And the book from Michael Burns-Lee, There Is No Planet B, is the first book that I found where there is a chapter dedicated to marketing. And it's a complex relationship in this problem between marketing and the solution, in the sense that obviously marketeers cannot do anything. We can influence within the company a better, behavior or thinking around the way we produce and we sell, and how profit is a priority versus the rest, versus the future of the planet. But this is not enough to make the change from, Michael Burnsley is more drastic. He says that certain industries should not have future. I'm not this drastic, but I struggle to see, for instance, I'm gonna say, how consistent can be all the fashion industry in the way it is shaped today with a more sustainable world. That's that's so under the spotlight. So there's something that needs to change anyway, and marketing can help in order to transform the attitude of the consumers into something that is also less obsessed by consume and the trend and fall, winter, spring, summer, and the fashion week in Milan and Paris, and because that's not, if things are what they are and we think they are, this is not conceivable for the long term, but not even for the midterm. Okay, this is where something has to change. If I take the Apple example or all the high-tech industry, they need to change dramatically, because we cannot buy a billion iPhone every year anymore. We cannot. Because the planet cannot make it. It's very simple. And we cannot stay on, if we need to be reasonable around the consumption of energy, and because we need to reduce the use of carbon fossil to produce electricity. Okay, so we need to limit also the consumption of energy. So we can have 25 screens on an individual level. And it's, and that's, so it's much bigger than this. But at the same time, those are questions that we need to start to ask ourselves. And I know the marketing, once the situation is clear on the direction that we want to take, can help dramatically, to inspire people to make those actions that can make a real change.
So a good example comes to my mind, because it's not only about making the company sell less. There are things that we don't see, such as, for example, yesterday I was shopping at Amazon, although Amazon is not a good example on these cases. But there was one thing that if you, for example, collect your boxes and shipments into like you. So I ordered 3 things, and then the system asks me, okay, can you want them to deliver it at the same time so that you use less packaging? And then it gives you credit for that, like $2 or $2.45, which is...
Those are nudges.
Yes.
Yeah.
For example, it was really interesting, and I'm sure that it's not given to the role of a marketer in most of the companies to reduce packaging when someone comes and shops from you. Marketing is in another world hanging around, right? And in that case, did Amazon sold me less, try to sell me less? No, they were just telling me, okay, ship your boxes in just one batch, and it's less packaging, and it's also less carbon footprint probably. So if those type of things, or like, for example, in a coffee shop, they don't tell you, okay, drink less coffee so that the planet gets better. No, there are some really creative things that you can do there. For example, if you use a glass, or if you bring your own cup, does that mean that you're gonna, drink less coffee? No, but you're gonna do less harm to the, to the environment by drinking from a, glass paper rather than a, plastic or paper cup, or using less cups, or using or like putting like a big sugar case rather than, putting everything in one single packs. I mean, there's like so many things that we can do around that, and that's not, most of the time, that's not the role of marketing department. That's somebody else is taking care of that, right?
That should be also the role of marketing, because
Yeah.
you remember when we were creating consumer journey, you
Mhm.
know, to make sure that athletes were in touch with Nike and with certain experiences through all the different touch points. Okay, those are additional touch points that the
Mhm.
brand can generate to nudge the people to a different behavior. Always, and creating also a different relationship with the brand and with the product. Then the question is around, there is a bigger question: what's the destiny of capitalism and whatever? That's, we don't want to enter there.
Yeah.
It's more,
On
but
another
it's,
one.
it's more about what's the what's the role of marketing in a moment where this change will become more and more necessary, or
Mhm.
we just go, the movie Don't Look Up, with
Mhm.
DiCaprio, or we go into that direction, and can we just wait for the end of the world, dancing and singing, because that's we can also make this choice, but I would say the awareness of the issue is growing,
Yeah.
and that's why I go back. There should be an accountability of the people working in marketing, intelligent people, brilliant people, creative people, strategists, whatever, to think about that, you know,
Mhm.
in a more solid and consistent way. It's, I think it's smart, unavoidable, but also let's prepare ourselves, because that's not too far, you know.
Yeah.
We are already there in many cases. Think about the transition of cars from fuel to electric or to whatever, and you know there are a lot of things that need to happen in order to change all the fleet of cars that are old to the new one, and so that's also a huge opportunity for the market to make profit in a different way. I mean, so there is a lot of food for thought
Yeah.
in this case.
Yeah. Well, I think like since we cannot expect this from really young marketers that are burnt under the pressure of performance marketing, under the pressure of
No,
sell now.
they must wake up. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
must wake up.
Yeah, that's why I think it's maybe up to us, the seasoned marketers, to raise these type of questions more and more, so that it relates to it goes back to this cascades down to the younger generations as well. So it was an eye-opening conversation for me. As always, thank you, Massimo, for that.
You're welcome, Peter. Can I
Uh, uh,
can I say just one thing at the end
yes, for
on
sure.
the young generation? We've been through this brainwashing about the Gen Z. They are so environmental sensitive and so open to and so global and yeah, okay, that's another stereotype. They really need
Yeah.
to move on. It's not a generation battle here. It's not about Generation Z versus Generation Y, X, or the boomers. It's the planet. It's one. So, and they need to move on because they're not thinking in this way. And that's where, and I don't want to point the fingers, but it's more about the difference between a Generation Z and myself is that the brain has less memory because they're building memories. And I have more memories, okay? And they can help, them to accelerate the process of learning. Is they just want to listen instead of, playing with technology, thinking that that's the solution. It's a very simple. So I don't want to blame the younger one, but we are all accountable on this
Yeah.
one. in changing
Yes.
the marketing. And it's not that you are a boomer, you just think of TV and come on, guys, let's move on the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, like, rather than discussing, okay, if it's Gen Z or if it's all for old people and so on and so on, I mean, there are
Yeah.
some other most important decisions to be discussed, I think, rather than, getting caught up in the generational wars.
Yeah, correct.
I agree on that. Yeah.
So sorry. Thank you for the opportunity for this last comment. And I know I sound communist, old, grumpy, whatever, but this is me.
No. I mean, there's always room for, I think, I'm really looking forward to hear these different perspectives, because I'm just also so fed up with, talking about, okay, quality versus quantity. How shall we market to Gen Z rather than market to...
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, rather than discussing those, I'm in more into discussing this, and then this. I think this podcast, I mean, although you might not know, but it was a game changer one for me. I can tell you that. It was a good reminder of where I should stay as a marketer and where I should be voice of some other things.
Thank you, Iter. Hope my contribution will help you and not will limit you. So that's
it's gonna help.
and good
Thank you
luck
for
for
that.
everything.